In today's video, I want to talk about how you can best answer the interview question, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? So without further ado, let's get started. Now, the first thing you need to understand is why are they asking this question? And the main word behind this is alignment. They want to see to what extent you're aligned with the trajectory of where that role is headed within the company. So for example, can you grow together with this company? Can you grow with this team? Is this in alignment with where you want to go? So is there basically a win-win situation where, for example, if you enter as an associate, are you going to grow into a mid-level and senior with that team? And are there going to be mid-level and senior roles within that team? And that's the thing that managers always have to think about, is whether this person is going to have a long-term future with this team, and whether the company and team can provide these opportunities for this individual so that they can continue sticking around rather than looking for greener pastures elsewhere. And so obviously, given that's the reason why they're asking this question, it's very important for you to prepare an answer for this. And you really don't want it to be vague, and you really don't want it to be unsure. You want to present yourself as someone who can grow with the team, and this is in alignment with your long-term goals as well. And so that's one common pitfall. Another common pitfall is having unrealistic expectations of where you're going to be in 5 years' time. One example would be, oh yeah, in 5 years' time, I see myself in a leadership role and yada yada, right? And for example, they're interviewing for an entry role. Well, that doesn't make sense then, right? Because in 5 years' time, you're probably not going to enter into a leadership role. It's not a realistic trajectory within this company, and therefore maybe they will see you as not a good fit. Or perhaps they'll see you as someone who hasn't wrapped their head around what this role actually entails. So the pitfalls of being overly vague and overly unrealistic are actual pitfalls when they're coming to assess your long-term fit with the team. Now, having said that, the second thing you need to do is obviously prepare for this question. And this would actually involve a lot of internal work on your end. I've talked about career clarity in the past, so you can definitely check it out in my previous videos. But one thing you definitely need to understand is, where do you really want to be? And like I said in many of my other videos, you need to come across as genuine, authentic, and just someone who they can trust. And if you spend a lot of time thinking about how you want your career to unfold, that will go a long way in preparing you to answer this question. So you need to think about several things. You need to think about, what are your career goals? What are some of the skills that you want to build? What are some of the experiences that you want to undergo? And what are some of the projects you want to touch? And these are things that you want to consider, and you want to be able to articulate 5 years time from now, I want to have these kinds of experiences, skills, I've experienced these kind of projects, I've done these things, and I want to be at this stage in my career. So self-reflection is definitely very important. The other component to this is doing the research. And some of it would involve going into LinkedIn. Some of it would be networking and speaking with people via informational interviews to get an understanding of, hey, what's the typical trajectory of someone who works in this field and doing this kind of work? By having these kinds of conversations, by doing some of the desk research, this would better prepare you to answer this question so that you're not caught off guard and saying something unrealistic, which is, as I said before, a pitfall. Now, the third thing you need to understand is that you need to craft an answer. And the structure that I'm going to present to you is kind of a past, present, future approach. And when I say past, I want you to talk about what led you to this moment. And you don't have to go too in depth about this, but you can touch briefly like, hey, my past experience has led me to this point. I would then recommend you to talk about what you currently want to do in your career. So more immediate, like the next 6 to 12 months. And then I want you to talk about short term. And short term is probably around 2 years, 2 to 3 years. That would be considered short term. And just fill that box out as well. And then finally, I want you to talk about long term. And long term is the 5 to 10 year trajectory. And by looking at these 4 milestones, you paint a very clear picture of where you've been, where you are, where you want to go immediately, and where you want to go in the long term. Now, the second piece involved with crafting your answer is connecting it to the company. And don't just talk about yourself, because at the end of the day, the company is hiring you to solve their problems. You also want to talk about how this is in line with the company's ambitions and the reasons for hiring you. And during the interview process, you get to ask them a lot of questions as well. And so if you've done the previous work in terms of asking and getting an understanding of, hey, why is this role open? What are you hoping this to accomplish? What's the number one priority? What does success look like, right? These kinds of questions that you get to ask them. By asking them and understanding where they're at, you can then have those pieces where they answer them and put it in your answer so that you show, hey, I see this alignment where I want to go this way, the company is heading this way, it's a win-win for both of us. And this brings us to our fourth point, which is tailoring your answer. And you want to make sure the answer is tailored to the role, to the industry, so that it's specific to that company and to that specific role you're talking about. Because at the end of the day, you can talk about generics, but if it's not relevant to that company or to that industry, then you're not saying anything really. And the fifth and final thing is practice, practice, practice. By practicing, by preparing the story, by doing the internal deep work, and by rehearsing several times, whether it's recording yourself and looking at replays or practicing with someone else and articulating it with someone else, that would go a long way so that they know it's something that you feel conviction about and that it is convincing. But one thing I would maintain during the practicing is also maintaining a degree of flexibility. You don't want to say like, this is exactly what I want to do, and if what I want is not achieved, then I'm going to be unhappy and so on. You want to maintain some flexibility in your answer as well, and that you are open to new opportunities that arise. So be sure to work that into your answer as well. Don't just say I have this fixed goal and it's non-negotiable. Be open to different possibilities that may come about, such as the recent AI revolution that we're undergoing. A lot of people did not see this coming, and this is presenting new opportunities for people to change how they work. And so you always want to maintain some degree of flexibility, especially in this day and age where things are changing very fast. And that's it. That's how you answer where do you see yourself in 5 years' time. Hope this video was helpful to you. If you like it, please give it a like, share, subscribe, follow wherever you are. And if you have any thoughts or comments, please let me know in the comments below. I always like to learn more. Take care, everyone.